Imagine a pantry stocked with delicious preserved food that doesn't require refrigeration and can last for decades. What may seem like a dream to many is a practical reality for the Amish, thanks to their tried-and-true water bath canning technique. This centuries-old method of preserving food has been passed down through generations, forming a cornerstone of Amish living. It enables them to store food naturally, efficiently, and cost-effectively. Today, we'll explore how this method works, why it's so dependable, and how you can use it to keep your food fresh for years to come. 1. Understanding the Amish water bath canning method. The Amish water bath canning technique is built on the principle of creating a vacuum-sealed environment to extend food's shelf life. This process relies on several scientific principles to preserve food effectively. When jars filled with food are submerged in boiling water, the heat serves multiple purposes. First, it raises the temperature of the food inside the jar to a level that eliminates bacteria, yeast, mold, and other potential pathogens. This heat also deactivates enzymes that would otherwise cause the food to break down over time. These steps are essential for maintaining the food's flavor, texture, and nutritional value. The vacuum seal is the heart of this process and sets water bath canning apart from other preservation methods. After the jars are removed from the boiling water, they begin to cool. During this cooling phase, the air inside the jars contracts, creating a vacuum. This vacuum is strong enough to form a tight seal, which prevents air and microorganisms from re-entering the jar and spoiling the contents. The metal lid of the jar plays a key role. As the vacuum forms, the lid bends inward, creating a concave shape that confirms the jar is properly sealed. This visual and physical confirmation ensures the process was successful. 2. Why the method works best for high-acidity foods. Water bath canning is particularly effective for foods with high acidity levels, those with a pH of 4.6 or lower. Acidic environments naturally inhibit the growth of Clostridium botulinum, the bacteria responsible for botulism, a serious foodborne illness. This makes the method ideal for preserving items like fruits, pickles, jams, jellies, and tomato-based products. By combining heat sterilization with the natural acidity of certain foods, this method provides a safe and reliable way to preserve food for long-term storage. Bringing Amish traditions to your kitchen. The Amish water bath canning method is more than a technique. It's a time-tested tradition rooted in simplicity and self-reliance. By adopting this approach, you can enjoy the benefits of preserved food that's free from artificial preservatives, budget-friendly, and ready to use whenever needed. Whether you're a homesteader, prepper, or simply someone who values sustainable living, this method offers an invaluable way to secure your pantry for years to come. Water bath canning is particularly favored for preserving fruits, pickles, tomatoes, and jams, foods that naturally have high acidity levels. These foods often contain high amounts of sugar, which serves as an additional preservative. Together, acidity, sugar, and vacuum sealing create a remarkably stable environment for long-term food preservation. The science behind the boiling water bath process. The boiling water bath method doesn't just heat the food, it also removes air from the jar. As the air inside the jar expands and escapes during the heating process, it creates space that contracts upon cooling. This contraction forms a vacuum seal that prevents oxidation, a chemical reaction that could otherwise alter the food's color, taste, and nutritional quality over time. The importance of timing in water bath. Canning timing is a critical factor in the success of water bath canning. Different types of food require varying processing times based on their density, acidity, and texture. For example, denser foods need more time for heat to penetrate evenly throughout the jar. This ensures that every part of the food reaches the necessary temperature to eliminate microorganisms. Failing to process the jars for the appropriate amount of time can lead to incomplete vacuum seals or underprocessed food, both of which could result in spoilage. Why water bath canning is simple and accessible. One of the biggest advantages of the water bath canning method, especially as practiced by the Amish, is its simplicity and accessibility. Unlike pressure canning, which requires specialized equipment and precise pressure levels, water bath canning needs only a large pot, jars, and a heat source. This makes it easy for anyone to start preserving food at home. Additionally, the reliance on boiling water eliminates the need for artificial preservatives, providing a natural and additive-free way to store food for extended periods. By carefully sterilizing the jars, lids, and equipment beforehand, the risk of contamination is minimized. This sterilization step, combined with the heat treatment of the water bath, ensures that preserved food remains safe and consumable for years. Historical roots of water bath. Canning. Water bath canning has a rich history rooted in practical necessity and ingenuity. Over generations, this method has evolved to become a cornerstone of food preservation for communities like the Amish. By combining traditional knowledge with simple tools, water bath canning remains a trusted way to preserve the bounty of the harvest for seasons, or even years, to come. Nicholas Appert's invention of water bath canning in the early 1800s revolutionized food preservation, changing the way society stored and consumed food. This groundbreaking method was developed in response to a challenge from the French government, which sought a reliable way to provide preserved food for troops during wartime. Appert's process involves sealing food in glass jars with cork stoppers and heating them in boiling water. This technique formed the basis for the modern canning industry and home preservation methods. Over time, glass jars were replaced by metal cans, which later evolved into today's jars, fitted with two-piece metal lids designed to create an airtight vacuum seal. The Amish adoption of water bath canning. The Amish quickly embraced water bath canning as an essential part of their self-sufficient, off-grid lifestyle. This method became their go-to for preserving high-acid foods such as fruits and vegetables due to its simplicity and natural preservation benefits. In Amish communities, seasonality is a way of life. During harvest seasons, they prepare and can large quantities of produce, ensuring they have a diverse and stable food supply throughout the winter and lean months. This practice minimizes dependence on store-bought goods while upholding their commitment to high-quality, homegrown food and sustainable living. The step-by-step process of Amish water bath. Canning. The Amish water bath canning process begins with selecting the right jars. Only jars specifically designed for canning are used, as these are tempered to withstand the high heat involved in the process. Wide-mouth jars are often favored for their ease of filling and cleaning, but regular-mouth jars are equally effective for most foods. Before starting, jars are inspected meticulously. Even the smallest chips, cracks, or flaws can compromise the jar's integrity and the effectiveness of the vacuum seal, potentially leading to food spoilage. Once inspected, the jars are cleaned and sterilized to eliminate any contaminants that could affect the preservation process. By following these careful steps, the Amish ensure their preserved food is safe, nutritious, and long-lasting, a reflection of their dedication to self-reliance and traditional living. To prevent spoilage, a proper seal is crucial when canning food. After carefully inspecting the jars and lids for any damage, such as cracks or chips, they should be washed thoroughly with hot, soapy water to remove factory residue or dust from storage. Sterilizing the jars is an essential step. Boiling them in water for 10 minutes eliminates bacteria, fungi, and other particles. This not only minimizes contamination risk, but also prepares the jars for a secure vacuum seal. For efficiency, the water used for sterilization can be repurposed later for the water bath. Preparing food for canning. The steps for preparing food depend on the type of item being preserved. For fruits, common tasks include peeling and removing pits, while vegetables often require blanching to soften their texture and enhance flavor. For liquids like syrups or sauces, skimming off foam is essential to maintain the final product's quality. It's critical to use recipes specifically designed for water bath canning to ensure the acidity level is sufficient for safe processing without a pressure canner. When filling jars, using a funnel helps reduce mess and ensures the jar rims remain clean. Proper headspace, usually between 1/4 and 1/2 inch, depending on the recipe, is vital for sealing. Too much or too little space can prevent a proper vacuum seal. Trapped air bubbles inside the jar should also be removed using a non-metallic tool, such as a spatula or bubble remover, to avoid compromising the seal. Before sealing, the rims should be wiped clean of any residue. The metal bands should be screwed on to fingertip tightness, not too tight, as over-tightening can warp the lid, and not too loose, as that could result in a failed seal. This balance allows air to escape during processing, while preventing water or new air from entering. The water bath process. The water bath must maintain a steady rolling boil throughout the entire processing time. The pot or canner should be deep enough to submerge the jars completely, with at least 1 to 2 inches of water covering them. Start timing only once the water has returned to a full boil after adding the jars. Processing times vary, depending on the type of food, its acidity level, and altitude, as higher altitudes require longer processing times. Consistent boiling temperature is key to both safety and a successful seal. Once the processing is complete, jars should be carefully removed using a jar lifter. Handle the jars gently to avoid cracking or disturbing the lids before they seal. Place the jars on a towel or wooden surface, as direct contact with a cold countertop can cause them to crack. Allow the jars to cool undisturbed for 12 to 24 hours. During this time, you'll often hear the satisfying pop of lids sealing, a sign the vacuum seal has formed. The lids will also become concave, indicating a successful seal. Testing the seal and storing your preserved food. After the jars have cooled, test the seals by pressing the center of each lid. A properly sealed lid will not flex or make a popping sound. Any jars with failed seals should be reprocessed immediately or refrigerated for short-term use. Proper labeling, including the date and contents, is recommended for efficient inventory management and ensures the food is consumed at its best quality. The science behind water bath canning. The success of Amish water bath canning relies on 2 primary scientific principles: thermal destruction of harmful pathogens and the formation of an airtight vacuum seal. The heat from boiling kills bacteria, molds, and yeasts, while also deactivating enzymes that could degrade the food over time. Meanwhile, the cooling process creates a vacuum seal that prevents new microorganisms or air from entering the jars, preserving the food safely and naturally for extended periods. During the boiling process in water bath canning, the temperature reaches approximately 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius, which is sufficient to eliminate most molds, yeasts, and bacteria present in high-acid foods. This heat not only destroys harmful microbes, but also deactivates the natural enzymes found in fruits and vegetables. These enzymes, if left unchecked, can break down the food over time, leading to spoilage and undesirable changes in flavor, texture, and quality. How the vacuum seal works. As the jars cool after boiling, a vacuum seal is formed. During the heating process, the food inside the jars expands, pushing air out. When the jars cool, the pressure inside decreases significantly, creating a tight vacuum seal as the lids are drawn inward. This seal does more than just secure the lid. It actively prevents oxygen from re-entering the jar. Oxygen is essential for many types of bacterial and mold growth, so its absence halts the proliferation of any remaining microorganisms. Additionally, the anaerobic, oxygen-free environment prevents oxidation, which can otherwise degrade the food's color, taste, and nutritional content. This ensures the food remains safe, flavorful, and shelf-stable for long periods. Long-term preservation and shelf life. Water bath canned foods, when stored properly, can remain safe and enjoyable for consumption for decades. Many families have reported opening jars of peaches, tomatoes, and preserves that have been stored for over 40 years. While the color of the food may darken slightly over time, the flavor and safety of the contents often remain intact, provided the jars were sealed correctly and stored in a cool, dark, and dry environment. This remarkable longevity highlights the effectiveness of water bath canning as a method of preserving food, not just for a season, but potentially for generations, making it an invaluable tool for anyone seeking self-reliance and sustainability. The flavor and nutritional content of water bath canned foods often remain intact for decades, making this method an effective way to preserve high-acid foods. The natural acidity of these foods serves as a built-in preservative, creating an environment that inhibits bacterial growth, including Clostridium botulinum, which causes botulism. Examples of longevity. Water bath canned foods like sauerkraut and fruit jams have been known to last over 25 years while maintaining their taste and texture. In jams, the high sugar content acts as an additional preservative, further extending their shelf life. Pickles also retain their crunch for up to 15 to 20 years, thanks to the acidic vinegar brine. In many Amish families, jars of preserved foods are handed down as part of family traditions, offering a glimpse into time-tested preservation methods that stand the test of time. However, the long shelf life of these foods depends on proper storage. Jars should be kept in a cool, dark place, away from direct sunlight or temperature fluctuations. Best practices and avoiding mistakes. To ensure success in water bath canning, follow these best practices. Preheat jars. Always warm jars in simmering water before filling them with hot food. Pouring hot food into cold jars can cause thermal shock and breakage, so maintaining consistent temperatures is crucial. Use correct jar sizes. Recipes are designed with specific jar sizes in mind. Using a different size can alter processing times, potentially resulting in underprocessed food. Maintain proper headspace. Leave the recommended headspace, usually 1/4 to 1/2 inch, depending on the recipe. Too little space can cause food to overflow, preventing a proper seal, while too much space can trap air, affecting the vacuum seal. Use new lids. Always use new lids for each canning session. While metal lids may appear intact, they are designed for single use, and reusing them increases the risk of seal failure. After processing, test the seals. Refrigerate any unsealed jars and consume them promptly, or reprocess the contents within 24 hours. Store properly. Once the jars are sealed and cooled, remove the metal bands to prevent rust and make it easier to detect failed seals. Store jars in a cool, dark place, and regularly inspect them for signs of spoilage, such as leaks, swelling, or mold. Benefits for frugal living and self-reliance. Water bath canning is an excellent tool for those seeking to lower grocery bills and embrace self-sufficient living. By preserving fruits and vegetables at their peak ripeness, you lock in nutrients and avoid waste. This method allows you to create a stockpile of healthy homemade food that's free of artificial preservatives and additives. In addition to savings, water bath canning gives you control over your food's quality and ingredients, making it a cornerstone of a frugal and self-reliant lifestyle. It's an investment of time and effort that pays off with a pantry full of long-lasting, delicious, and nutritious foods. When fresh produce is at its peak, preserving it through water, bath canning allows you to enjoy healthier options year-round. For gardeners, it's an ideal way to store excess harvests that might otherwise spoil. Surplus fruits and vegetables can be transformed into jams, sauces, or pickles that stay fresh for years. This method also enables you to buy in bulk at farmers markets or local sales, where seasonal produce is often more affordable. By canning your own food, you reduce reliance on store-bought items, which often contain additives, preservatives, and excess sugars. In times of emergency or food supply disruptions, having a stock of home canned goods ensures access to nutrient-rich meals. This not only supports a frugal and self-reliant lifestyle, but also adds a layer of preparedness. Furthermore, canning is environmentally friendly, cutting down on single-use packaging waste, and promoting sustainability in your household. Using pre-canned ingredients in meals also saves time without compromising quality, making it a practical choice for busy families. Explore other food preservation techniques. While water bath canning is a powerful method, there are many other traditional preservation techniques worth exploring. Fermentation. Natural fermentation uses beneficial bacteria to transform sugars into acids, preserving food while adding probiotics. Foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, and homemade yogurt are examples of this process, which enhances both flavor and health benefits. Drying and dehydrating. Removing moisture from food prevents bacterial growth. Air-drying herbs, sun-drying fruits, or using a food dehydrator for vegetables and meats produces lightweight, long-lasting foods that don't require refrigeration. Lactofermentation. This method involves using salt to inhibit harmful bacteria while naturally preserving vegetables like cucumbers, pickles, or cabbage. It's simple and adds a tangy flavor to the preserved food. Curing and smoking. For meats and fish, curing with salt or sugar removes moisture, while smoking imparts a distinctive flavor and creates a protective barrier against spoilage. Combining these methods enhances preservation. Root cellaring. Storing root vegetables such as potatoes, carrots, and apples in a cool, dark, and humid environment extends their shelf life through the winter. This method is low-tech and requires minimal equipment. These methods can often be combined for better results. For example, meats can be both cured and smoked to last even longer. Why preserve food at home? Home preservation allows you to control the ingredients and quality of your food while reducing waste and saving money. It's a sustainable and practical approach to ensure you're always prepared, regardless of the circumstances. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more tips on traditional living, food preservation, and frugal lifestyle hacks. In our next video, we'll reveal a surprising money-saving strategy that could transform how you approach budgeting and resourcefulness. Stay tuned and happy canning.